Hey guys, Mike here. So definitely an interesting day in the market. That is for sure for a big setup for tomorrow, which we'll get into. And you can see today was a whole boatload of red, especially on semiconductors. And we'll talk about three of them in particular for sure. And then we'll get into obviously a few charts, but let's be real. Tomorrow is a big day. Okay, I'm gonna move what I usually put at the end of the video to the beginning. So what's happening tomorrow? Two big events, and basically this is just going to set the week up for what it's going to be, okay? And you can see it. It's going to be NVDA after hours, okay? That's going to be the big one. The rest of the earnings don't mean anything. Therell be some high flyers and all that fun stuff, but it's all about NVIDIA. But before that, you're going to have FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock, and plus you also have a 20-year bond auction. Let's see how that one goes. But really, it's going to be the FOMC minutes, just talking about how many rate cuts they project and all that good stuff, and you know, people will try to project the time frame, but watch the dollar and watch yields, because you can see right here, here's the dollar, and it started to sell off again today, but it caught that trend line, started to bounce back up right on that 100 moving average. We'll see if this one starts to move up back in that fair value gap to fully mitigate it, along with yields going up. That could happen before NVIDIA earnings if FOMC minutes are considered very hawkish and all that good stuff. But you can see what took a beating today. A lot of profit taking, right? Really small cap stuff. The big mega caps were all down. Besides Google, it held up pretty well, actually. Fintech, semiconductors, cybersecurity stocks, big tech, of course, because people are up huge in these things, right? And of course, NVIDIA, obviously, it was red in pre-market. So, of course, what do we get in pre-market? What do we got here? What are they calling for? Jimmy, I need a price upgrade. Pump it. Come on. Oh, my God. Come on, Jimmy. And, of course, what happened? Jimmy fell. It's not Jimmy's fault, though. It's not Jimmy's fault. Okay, so Jimmy does not get fired. But you can see he didn't put his price upgrade enough. He only got it to 1,050 there at Baird, okay? But they tried. They tried really hard. But, again, earnings tomorrow. But would you rather buy it at 740 or 680? I think you'd rather buy it at 680, and that's where the buyers came in right there. Again, you look to the left, end up mitigating a nice little fair value gap, hit a nice little support area, and we bounced from there. And I know people were all over Twitter saying they were coming in on this for sure. And because NVIDIA is expecting its largest move it's ever expected during earnings, okay? It usually doesn't even hit the expected move. But this, I think it's 11% right now being projected. That might have changed as I'm recording this, but that's what they were projecting. And so, again, would you rather buy lower or higher? And you might have noticed, where did AMD hit, by the way? AMD came right below that line, hit that trend line to the penny, right? So that gives us about 5 or 6 bounces now. And, again, defending what? The prior all-time high. And so it's just funny how they set this thing up for tomorrow going into this, because, of course, AMD will go along with NVIDIA. If NVIDIA rocks it and starts just moving like crazy up, AMD is going right along with it, baby. And if it goes down, of course, AMD will ride it back down. Now, of course, what did I tell you guys about SMCI? What level to watch out for? And guys, before we continue, if you could hit that like button for me, I sure would appreciate it. It helps people find this video and everything. And also, if you like the content, think about subscribing, guys. But when you look at it, as long as it held that area and starts to move up and gets past around 810 probably, you know, you could probably head to 830. At 830, that's where it got a lot of calls for, again, shorting this. And what happened? Again, if you don't pull up ETH, pull it up. 830.02, and then fell off a cliff in pre-market once it hit 830. So again, that was the level a lot of people were calling for to short it, those traders, and of course that's exactly what happened. And of course we talked about how is IWM going to do if SMCI, which counted for such a big part of its move up because of this, as you can see, going to happen. Now SMCI is bouncing as we speak, but of course IWM was red. It was down about 1.65%, 1.7 at the most. But again, it's just sitting here. There's the 50. There's the trend line. Hadn't reached that yet. Again, the weekly bottom is around 196.58 is what the option market is calling for. So if you see SMCI start to bounce, right, now others, of course, will follow along, but it has one of these huge bounces, then you can see IWM probably move up too. But if it goes stagnant, just starts trading in a range, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to IWM. That's for sure. And again, at least we got the question answered, because I kept trying to figure out, well, if yields and rates and stuff aren't going to get cut and come down, like why are small caps rallying crazy? Well, now, of course, we know that one stock tripling its market cap. That would be why. And so if NVIDIA hangs the moon tomorrow, guess what? SMCI is going to probably go up as well. And NVIDIA, what's funny about it is it's actually cheaper now than it was like 2 earnings ago, right? Because it's finally grown into its earnings and it's had a couple earnings where it's had these big numbers and everything. And so that's what's funny about it. So you see these price upgrades, that's what they're upgrading it for, believe it or not. So just kind of keep that in mind when they do the report and everything. Now S&P, again, it just falls back down in this channel. And the funny thing about this, what I said, it was kind of a strange day in a way. It was what was green, what was red, what was barely green. And S&P at one point in time was down about 0.7%, I believe it was. And so, you know, it's still in this channel, no big deal. You are starting to see what? Kind of some lower highs being set right here, no lower lows. And so NVIDIA and all the rest of the stuff will dictate where we're going to go in this channel. We're going to move back up and test it. But if you don't get above 5,000, that's really the big name. You got to get above 5,000. If it comes up there and gets rejected, then we can see some more downside for sure. So keep that in mind. What was funny though was RSP, the equal weight ETF. At one point in time, it was only down like 0.27% all day, so about a third of what the S&P was down. And remember, this one's close to all-time highs, and we talked about when it gets to all-time highs, that's when you see a surge in this, which means more breadth is coming in. And so that's what I was saying. Even though Apple and some others are showing weakness, if all of a sudden you get 493 other stocks or 200 other stocks or 300 other stocks moving up together, that's an increase in breadth. The market can still move up. And so keep that in mind. HYG was actually green all day. We had talked about this one a while back, right? It was setting these lower highs. Was it telling us something where we're going to start to get a sell-off in the S&P? But it wasn't setting lower lows or anything. And so when we pull up the S&P on top of this one, I just found it weird. It was green all day and the S&P is red all day, which was surprising. But when you pull it up, you'll see what I'm talking about here. With, you know, the S&P just raging higher while HYG, smart money, is like, I don't know about this rally and stuff. And now maybe you're starting to finally see a little weakness in the S&P as it starts to turn over a little bit with some equal highs right there on this one. But, you know, we'll see. Again, tomorrow's going to decide a whole lot for us here. There's no doubt about that. And then when you go over and look at Apple, of course, they got saved. Dip buyers came in on this one. That's a shocker at 180 and got it moving back up quickly because they knew they couldn't lose that 180. Because if you lose that, what are you going to do? You're going to end up setting a new lower low. They did not want that, okay? That created a lot of selling pressure. It got below that trend line. They pushed it back up to right at the trend line right there. So it's below all its moving averages, okay? Chart definitely does not look strong. But again, Apple is a beacon of hope and light to the market, and so they couldn't have that. And again, if it breaks that and starts setting a new lower low, you know, you better watch out below. But again, it's all about drama, the cliffhanger, what's going to happen. You know, no way NVIDIA crushes it again and goes up to 1,000, right? But of course, 180 is key for Apple. Just watch that. Again, if it breaks, then you start talking about, you know, between 170, 174 coming into play right there. So that's going to be a big thing. And don't forget, you got the weekly moving averages right below this. I'm not going to pull up, but they're also there as well for support. Now, Tesla, we talked about, you know, if we pulled up our Fibonacci levels, normally you get a pullback at the 618. It got that. The reason why I got the dump, because everything dumped, right? But when you're going through this, just sit there and look for a place it can bounce from. Look for high time fair value gaps. There was a 4-hour fair value gap. If we go to a lower time frame, you can see it mitigated that thing to the penny and then bounce and never look back, okay? So just keep that in mind, and I'll go ahead and tell you, if you're going through this right here, again, there's that gap up above it. But, you know, if you're looking for fair value gaps, and Tesla does this sometimes, so do other stocks, if they cut through those fair value gaps like a hot knife through butter, that move is going to continue. What should be happening is they come in these fair value gaps, especially high time frame fair value gaps. They should come down, bounce, move up some, come down, bounce, move up some, in both directions. That's what should be happening. So if you ever see, especially on the lower time frames, I guess really is the big one to look at, or higher time frames are obviously more important, but if it cuts through there, then whatever direction it's going, it's going to continue. You saw that this morning, actually, which is why NQ dropped so much when it cut through the fair value gaps. You can see Tesla to the penny. It mitigated this one. There are a few down below. The other thing you want to do, just as a note, is pull up your Fibonacci levels, come down. Some people like to use the 50. I like the 618 myself, but if you look at that, a lot of times it'll actually bounce there as well. When you pull up your fibs, you'll see that. Now, of course, you might have noticed, once again, Chinese stocks were red. Of course, they actually did something, you know, to try to stabilize something. As you can see right here, we got a bunch of red right here. But, you know, the Hang Seng Index was actually green. It's just the ADRs, which are what these are right here that we buy here in America, were not. And what they did was China makes the biggest ever cut to key mortgage rate to bolster a disastrous housing market right now. And they're trying their best. Again, for those who didn't see that video, like their builders are in major trouble and stuff. And I kind of laughed when I saw this. I thought, who cares if you're cutting the rate? I mean, it's good for you to do it to try to stabilize it, but man, if you're so underwater, which most of these people are, why in the world would you sit here and say, oh, sure, I'll go ahead and start buying? I mean, would you start buying into that housing market? I'm just curious. If you know anything about it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's just no way in the world you couldn't pay me to buy a house over there right now. That's nuts, right? I mean, you just look at this. Chinese mortgages shrink as home buyers stay on the sideline. You think, right? Residents refrain from borrowing amid price slump, unfinished projects. Like I said, people literally have money tied up they can't get out, and houses that still aren't built. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of people, right? And you can see, going back to 2019, it's like, woo, wait a minute, went negative. Oh my goodness, and is it going to keep going? That's what we got to find out. And so good to see the Hang Seng Index green, but people over here aren't buying it, and their stock market will not go up without foreign investment coming in. You can almost bet money. That's for sure, because once foreign investment, which is us mostly and some others, started pulling out, and oof, yeah, you've seen what's happened over there. So eventually, you hope to see a bottom, but again, we've never seen anything like it. You know, 08 was nothing compared to this mess they got over there. Absolutely nothing. The only thing holding it up is the fact they run their banking system. That's it, right? If those are publicly traded banks like we had over here, who were trying to just crush people and kick people out, it'd be way worse than what they got right now. But they can tell bankers to keep lending or you will get re-educated, right? Wink, wink. So, you know, that's where we're at on that one. So, again, tomorrow, 2 o'clock FOMC minutes, 1 o'clock, that 20-year Treasury, watch yields to spike or whatever, because they spike, the market's going to end up going down. If FOMC minutes seem hawkish and they're going to be looking going, oh, wait a minute, I think they said they're going to cut rates in May. Where did you see that at? I don't see it. I just feel like that's what they said, right? And then, of course, after hours, we'll get NVDA, right? So, and most time they don't make their expected move. Again, it's the largest expected move ever. Let me know if you're playing it and how you're playing it and stuff. And again, if you're playing like single leg options, if it don't make the expected move, odds are you're going to get crushed. So just kind of keep that in mind. I personally think they're going to hit it and go up. I can't imagine they're going to pull the rug on NVIDIA right now. It just doesn't make any sense at this point in time, even though we are in seasonality. So I get the seasonality argument to it, but I don't know. It's NVIDIA. And I bet against it before. I'm just not going to bet against it until it proves me wrong. So I say it goes up. I do say they probably do some finagling or whatever in after hours, try to screw everybody in their options by trying to crush them by spiking up, spiking down, then moving up, or however they're going to do it. I've seen them do so many times this earnings season, so I can see that happening for sure. And again, it'll be all about guidance. I mean, that's what it's going to be about. So let me know your predictions at the bottom. AMD and everything else will ride the coattails with them for sure. So anyway, hope you guys got some out of it. Hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Really appreciate all you guys and all your feedback and stuff. Everybody who signs up for the membership, appreciate all your support. And I will see you tomorrow.